Settle in. Today I've got two of the most twisted Reddit confessions I could find. Like, subscribe, and let's dive in. Our baby monitor picked up another household signal. They were talking about my daughter by name. Posted 3 days ago by Chloe Numbers Don't Lie. I'm Chloe, 35, and I work as an accountant. It's just me and my daughter Nora, she's 3, in a quiet suburb where nothing ever happens. Or that's what I kept telling myself. The baby monitor in Nora's room is an old analog model, the kind with a fixed channel and a plastic antenna you have to angle just right. My sister Faye gave it to me when Nora was born. It always worked fine, so I never replaced it. Last Wednesday, I put Nora down around 7:15. She was wearing her yellow duck pajamas, the ones with the little orange feet. I kissed her forehead, turned the monitor on, and went back to the living room to finish reconciling a client's books. About an hour in, I heard something underneath the white noise. A woman's voice. Faint, like someone talking in another room through a wall. I figured it was radio bleed. Neighbors with a cordless phone. Maybe another monitor on a nearby frequency. It happens with analog devices. I almost muted it. Then the voice said my daughter's full name. First and last. I stopped breathing. The woman kept talking. Calm and conversational, like she was telling someone about her day. She described the park Nora and I had gone to that afternoon. She mentioned the sandbox, the slide with the green railing, and the specific bench I'd been sitting on while I scrolled my phone. She described it like she'd been standing 10 feet behind us. I ran to Nora's room. She was asleep, blanket kicked off, thumb near her mouth. Safe. I stood there, watching her chest rise and fall until my hands stopped shaking enough to walk back to the monitor. The voice was gone, just static. I sat in the dark for a long time, trying to convince myself there was a reasonable explanation. A cross signal, a coincidence, some neighbor who also knows a girl named Nora. But nobody else knows which bench I sit on. Nobody else saw the yellow duck pajamas. Someone was watching us today, and somehow, that someone is coming through my daughter's monitor. How close do you have to be to describe someone's afternoon like you lived it? Chloe continued her post. The next 3 days, I lived like someone was grading my awareness. Every trip to the park, I watched. Every jogger, every park sedan with tinted windows, every woman on a bench pretending to read her phone. I changed everything. Different parks, different times. Tuesday, we went to the one across town by the library instead of our usual spot. Thursday, I skipped the park entirely and took Nora to a play cafe 20 minutes away. Every night, I left the monitor on with my phone pressed against the speaker, recording. Thursday night, nothing. Friday night, nothing. I started to wonder if I'd imagined the whole thing, if maybe some neighbor really did know a kid named Nora and I'd filled in the rest with my own fear. Then, Saturday night, the voice came back. Clearer this time. The woman was on a phone call. I could only hear her side, but the rhythm of it was obvious, the pauses where the other person was responding. She said Nora had chicken nuggets for dinner, the ones shaped like dinosaurs. She said bedtime was 7:30. Both true. Then she laughed softly and said, "She's getting so big. She looks just like him." I sat there and every joint in my body locked. Him. My ex-husband Darren lost custody of Nora 18 months ago. A judge issued a protective order. I won't go into the details of why, but I'll say this. It was bad enough that a family court judge, who sees the worst of people every single day, agreed that a 3-year-old needed legal distance from her own father. I called the non-emergency police line. The officer asked if I had a digital monitor. I said no, analog. He said those things pick up all kinds of signals. Truckers, garage door openers, cordless phones. He told me to switch channels or buy a new one. I almost called my sister Faye. She's been my rock through all of it. The divorce, the custody fight, the nights I couldn't stop shaking. She babysits Nora. She visits every week. She's the one person in the world I trust completely. But something stopped me. I can't explain it. Just a feeling, like a hand on my shoulder pressing me back into my chair. Instead, I started researching. Analog monitors transmit on open frequencies. An older model like mine can pick up signals from surprisingly far away, or from a second device broadcasting on the same channel. Someone could be right next door, or right inside my house. She chose to search for the signal on her own. The signal wasn't coming from outside. A coworker's husband does ham radio as a hobby. I asked to borrow his frequency scanner, and he dropped it off without too many questions. Monday morning, I sent Nora to daycare and stood in her room with the scanner running. It picked up the expected signal from my own monitor on its usual channel. Then it picked up something else, a second transmission, weaker, on an adjacent frequency, broadcasting from inside the room. I tore everything apart. I pulled the curtains down, moved the dresser, emptied the closet shelf by shelf. Then I got to the crib. Taped to the back panel, flat against the wood where I would never see it from any normal angle, was a small black transmitter. Cheap plastic, maybe the size of a matchbox. The kind you can buy online for under $30. Someone had been inside my daughter's room. Someone taped this behind the place where she sleeps. Only 2 people have unsupervised access to this house, me and Faye. A repair person came once about 5 months ago to fix the garbage disposal, but he never went upstairs. I photographed the transmitter. I put it in a sandwich bag. Then I called Faye. I kept my voice light. I asked when she last babysat. She said last Tuesday. That was the night the voice came back. I asked if she noticed anything strange in Nora's room. She said no, everything was totally normal. Nora went right down. I thanked her and hung up. I sat on Nora's bedroom floor with the transmitter in my lap, and I cried. I did not want to be right. I went back through every recording I'd made with my phone pressed to the monitor speaker. I listened to the cadence, the rhythm of the laugh, the way the woman said she with this soft exhale before the word, like a habit she'd never noticed in herself. I know that voice. I have known it for 35 years. Paranoid Papa Bear. Analog monitors bleed signals all the time, but the name thing is what makes this terrifying. That's not random interference. Someone close to you is feeding information. Nocturnal nerves. The pajama detail is what got me. That means whoever is talking either saw your daughter in person that day or has a camera angle into the room. Neither option is okay. Deleted and gone. I don't want to freak you out more than you already are, but have you checked whether your sister's visits line up with the nights you hear the voice? Just look at a calendar. I did. I went through my texts with Faye and cross-referenced the nights I logged hearing the voice. Every single incident falls on a night she had been at the house earlier that day or was babysitting. Every one. I'm sitting here staring at the list and my hands won't stop shaking. She braided Nora's hair last Tuesday. She made her pancakes shaped like stars, and the whole time she was calling him. A few days later, Chloe came back with an update. I found out who was on the monitor. My lawyer filed an emergency motion and subpoenaed Faye's phone records. When the records came back, I sat in the law office and stared at the printout until the columns blurred. Regular calls between Faye and Darren, some lasting over an hour, going back months. The transmitter she taped behind Nora's crib was meant to let her listen in when she wasn't physically at the house, but she didn't realize the cheap device was bleeding its signal into the baby monitor's frequency. Every time she called Darren from inside or near Nora's room, her side of the conversation bled straight through to the receiver in my living room. The voice on the monitor was my sister's. She had been giving Darren real-time reports on our daughter, what Nora wore, what she ate, where we went, what time she fell asleep, everything. I drove to Faye's apartment with the transmitter in a plastic bag. I set it on her kitchen table and I didn't say a word. She looked at it and she didn't deny anything, but she didn't apologize either. She started crying. Not the kind of crying that comes from guilt. It was anger. She said Darren deserves to know his daughter. She said the court got it wrong. She said I was keeping a father from his child and that somebody had to do something. I stood in my sister's kitchen and watched her defend the man I got a protective order against. The man a judge agreed my 3-year-old needed legal distance from. And all I could think about was Faye braiding Nora's hair last Tuesday, reading her the book about the caterpillar, tucking the blanket under her chin. All of that tenderness had been wrapped around surveillance, and that is what made it unbearable. The love was real. The betrayal was built right into it. Midwest Mama, please tell me you've moved Nora out of that room, even temporarily. Put her in your bed, put her anywhere else. That room is compromised. Throwaway custody, Mom. I went through a custody battle that got ugly, and this reads exactly like coordinated surveillance by the non-custodial parent. Please contact your family law attorney before you contact police. The order of operations matters legally. Signal Geek. This is the right answer. If there's an existing protective order and the ex is using a third party to circumvent it, that's potentially a criminal violation depending on the state. Lawyer first, documentation second, police third. Do not tip off the sister before the lawyer knows. Chloe closed with this. I filed a police report. I changed every lock in the house. I applied for a new protective order. This one includes Faye by name. I bought a digital encrypted baby monitor and swept Nora's room twice with the frequency scanner. It came back clean both times. Nora doesn't understand why Aunt Faye doesn't visit anymore. She asks about her almost every day. Where's Faye? Is Faye coming for dinner? Can Faye braid my hair? I tell her Aunt Faye is busy. Every single time, it breaks something in me. The hardest part isn't the fear or the anger. It's the quiet. Faye was the only family I had nearby. She was Tuesday night dinners and Saturday morning coffee, and someone to call when Nora said a new word or had a bad dream. Now it's just the two of us in this house, and the silence where my sister used to be is louder than any voice that ever came through that monitor. But here's the thing that keeps me up. When my lawyer and I went through the subpoenaed phone records more carefully, we looked at the timestamps. The calls between Faye and Darren didn't start when she planted the transmitter. They started 3 weeks before I even owned the baby monitor. The device was just an upgrade. Before that, Faye didn't need technology. She had something better. She had my trust. She had my front door key and a standing invitation and a niece who ran to her arms every time she walked in. Every visit, every bedtime story, every afternoon she joined us at the park, she was watching. And then she was calling him and telling him everything. The transmitter was just the version I caught. I trusted her with the most important person in my life. She used that trust as a window and left it wide open. Signal Geek. If you're on an analog 49 MHz monitor, anyone within roughly a quarter mile with the same frequency range can pick up and broadcast on it. You need to switch to a digital encrypted unit immediately. On to the next one. I, 26 male, booked an Airbnb for my sister and me, and the host left a note warning us to never look at the photos in the hallway. Posted 3 days ago by Claire Travels Nowhere. I book travel for a living. That's the first thing you should know about me. I'm 26, I still live at home with my family, and my actual job title is travel advisor at a mid-size agency downtown. I find flights, rentals, boutique hotels, off-grid cabins, whatever people want. So when I decided to take my younger sister Phoebe on a weekend trip, I thought I had every advantage. I searched for something remote and quiet, lakeside, no neighbors. I found a listing about 2.5 hours from the nearest real town. A renovated cottage on a private lot backing onto a lake that doesn't even show up on most maps. The photos looked perfect. 5 stars, 14 reviews, a host named Gerald with a verified profile. Self-check-in with a lockbox. We drove out on a Friday afternoon. The last 40 minutes of the drive had no cell signal. When we pulled up, the property was gorgeous. Cedar siding, wraparound porch, trees pressing in close on 3 sides, and the lake glinting through the back. Gerald was not there. Expected. I got the key from the lockbox, opened the door, and the place smelled like pine cleaner and old wood. On the kitchen counter, centered perfectly, was a laminated note. It listed 7 framed photos hanging in the upstairs hallway, numbered 1 through 7 by position. Beneath the list, in neat printed handwriting, it said guests should walk past them with their eyes on the floor. Phoebe read it and laughed. I laughed too. We figured Gerald was just eccentric. That night, I walked past the photos on my way to the bedroom. I barely glanced at them. The 4th one caught my eye for a second. It showed an empty wooden dock stretching out over still water. Nothing unusual. I went to sleep. The next morning, I headed down the hallway again and stopped. The 4th photo did not show an empty dock anymore. 2 figures stood at the far end of it. One of them was wearing the exact olive green jacket Phoebe had packed in her bag for this trip. I had seen this photo 12 hours ago. It was empty. I did not imagine that. Something was wrong. He tried to talk himself out of it. I stood in that hallway for maybe 2 full minutes, staring at the fourth photo. 2 figures on the dock. The one on the left in Phoebe's olive green jacket. I told myself I'd barely glanced at it the night before. Maybe the figures had always been there, and I just hadn't noticed in the dim light. Maybe I was tired from the drive. I went downstairs and picked up the laminated note from the kitchen counter. I read it slowly this time. It was more detailed than I'd realized. Each photo was listed by number and position, left wall or right wall, distance from the staircase and approximate steps. Beneath the list, in the same neat printed handwriting, it said, "Do not study them. Do not photograph them. Walk past with your eyes down. This is not a joke, and it is not a game." The printing was so careful it almost looked mechanical, but you could see where the pen had pressed harder on certain words. I told Phoebe what I'd seen. She was eating cereal at the kitchen table, and she put the spoon down and went straight upstairs before I could stop her. I followed her. She walked the length of the hallway, describing each one out loud. Photo 1. The kitchen we were sitting in. Same angle, same light. Photo 2. The lake at dusk. Trees dark along the shore. Photo 3. The staircase shot from above, like someone was looking down from the ceiling. Photo 4. The dock. 2 figures standing at the end. Phoebe pointed at the second figure and said the height and build looked like me. Photo 5. A bedroom with rumpled sheets that matched our guest room exactly. Photo 6. A window seen from inside the house at night, and there was a face pressed against the glass from outside, but the features were smeared, unclear, like a photograph taken through rain. Photo 7 was turned to face the wall. You could only see the back of the frame. That night, Phoebe said she was fine, but she didn't sleep. I stayed up in the living room with the lights on. Around 2 in the morning, I heard footsteps in the upstairs hallway. I called up to her. She said she just wanted to check if anything had changed. I asked her to please stop looking. She went quiet. I sat there on that couch and I felt it settle over me. The understanding that I chose this place. I found it. I booked it. I drove us here. Whatever was happening in that hallway, I brought her to it. The photos were patient. They could wait until morning. The house had been busy overnight. Day 2. I went upstairs before Phoebe woke up. I don't know why I thought checking alone would make it easier. Photo 6 had changed. The face pressed against the window was no longer blurred. It was Phoebe. She was outside the house, palms flat on the glass, and her expression was pure terror, mouth open, eyes wide, like she was begging to be let back in. I felt my stomach drop. I did not tell her about this one. I checked photo 7, still turned to the wall. I grabbed the edge of the frame and tried to rotate it. It would not move. Not stuck the way a nail holds something. Fused, like the frame and the wall were one solid piece. I let go and went back downstairs. I opened the Airbnb app and messaged Gerald directly. No response. I called the phone number on the booking confirmation. Disconnected. Not voicemail, not ringing, just a flat tone and nothing. I filed a support request with the platform. While I was standing in the kitchen typing on my phone, Phoebe came down the stairs. She was calm in a way that frightened me more than panic would have. She said photo 5 had changed too. The rumpled sheets now had an indentation pressed into them, like a body was lying underneath. But the shape was wrong. Too long. Too many angles, she said, like something with extra joints folded up under the blanket. I told her we were leaving within the hour. She didn't argue. I want to explain something about what I was feeling. The house did not feel haunted. There were no cold spots, no creaking, no shadows moving where they shouldn't. It felt more like the house was composing something, like we were inside a draft that kept revising itself, and the photos were the pages. We were reading chapters that hadn't happened to us yet. In my job, when a destination turns dangerous, political unrest, a natural disaster warning, anything, you pull the client out. You don't wait, you don't negotiate. Phoebe was my client now. Fennec screams, "Do not turn photo 7 around. I am dead serious. Whatever it shows is the last thing that happens, and if you look at it, you lock it in. Do not touch it again." Lake house? Nope. Did you try taking photos of the pictures with your phone? Like actual phone camera photos for evidence? I tried, 3 times. Every single one came out as a solid black image. Not dark, not underexposed, completely black, like the camera captured nothing at all. My phone worked fine for everything else, just not those frames. 10 days later, Claire came back with an update. I found the previous guest who wrote that note. I haven't been able to stop thinking about that laminated note. After we got home, I put it in a drawer in my room, face down, and tried to move on. I lasted about a week. I used my travel advisor credentials to contact the booking platform's partner support line directly and asked for host activity records on Gerald's listing. The representative told me Gerald had been deceased for 14 months. Heart attack, apparently. His estate kept the property active through a management trust, auto approvals, dynamic pricing, a contracted cleaning crew that comes every checkout. No living person has operated that listing as a host in over a year. Gerald did not write that note. I went through every review on the listing going back 2 years. Most were normal. Great lake views, quiet location, 5 stars. But one review, left by a woman who stayed 3 weeks before Phoebe and me, was a single line. It said, "The photos know what you will do before you do it, and the last one shows how you leave." She checked out a day early. I found her on social media. It took me 3 days of messages before she agreed to talk. When she finally called me back, her voice was flat, like someone who had already decided nobody would believe her and had stopped caring. She confirmed she wrote the laminated note. She laminated it herself at a print shop on the drive home and mailed it back to the property in a padded envelope addressed to future guests. She told me she looked at photo 7. In it, she saw herself getting into her car alone in the driveway. But in the back seat, there was a figure sitting upright, hands on its knees, facing forward. When she actually left, she checked her back seat before getting in. Empty. But she told me that for the entire 2.5-hour drive home, she could feel weight pressing into the seat behind her. She said the last thing to me before she hung up: "The house does not follow you, but it makes sure you know it could." Just Dex. Wait, so the booking platform just kept accepting reservations for a dead man's house? That is a whole different horror story right there. Old Salt Pete. It happens more often than you would think. If the bank account linked to the payout is still active and nobody flags the listing, it just sits there generating income for an estate that might not even be monitored. I have seen listings run for 2 years after the owner passed. The algorithm does not care if you are alive. Throwaway Mari. You need to post a photo of that laminated note. I know it sounds morbid, but people need to see this. I still have it. It is in a drawer in my room at home, face down. I have not turned it over since the night I put it there. I am not sure I want to photograph it. After what happened with the phone camera at the house, I do not fully trust that what shows up in the image will match what is actually printed on the paper. Claire described what he saw the last time he walked through that hallway. We packed the car on day 2. Phoebe loaded her bag first and got in the passenger seat while I did a final sweep of the house. Everything was out. I was locking the back door when I realized I had left Phoebe's phone charger plugged in by the bed upstairs. I went back in alone. The house was completely silent. Not quiet, silent. The way a room gets when a recording stops. I climbed the stairs and walked toward the guest bedroom. I had to pass the hallway. I told myself I would keep my eyes down. I did not keep my eyes down. All 7 photos were facing outward. Number 7. The one that had been turned to the wall since we arrived. The one I could not physically move. It was facing the hallway now, just like the rest. And every single frame showed the same image. All 7. The view from inside the house, looking out through the front window at our car in the driveway. Phoebe was visible in the passenger seat. The angle was exact. It matched precisely where I was standing. I grabbed the charger from the bedroom and I left. I did not run. I walked at a normal pace down the stairs, out the front door, and into the driver's seat. I did not tell Phoebe. 3 weeks later, the listing disappeared from the platform. No notice, no explanation. It simply was not there anymore. I still have the laminated note in a drawer in my room at home. I have not turned it over. I still have the black images on my phone, the ones I tried to take of the photos. I have not opened them. I work and travel. I have sent hundreds of people to places all over the world. I have never once believed that a building could want something from the people inside it. But I think about that house every single day. I do not think about going back. I think about whether the photos are still changing, on that wall, in that hallway, in a house where no one is there to look at them. Wanderlust, Kayla. The jacket detail broke me. How does a framed photo on a wall change to show what your sister packed in her suitcase? I physically cannot process that. Fennec screams. You said the last photo shows how you leave. Claire. What did the 7th photo show when you finally walked out? I did not look at the 7th one. I made that decision on the first night and I held to it. Phoebe asked me the same thing in the car and I told her I did not know. The truth is, I was terrified that if I saw it, whatever it showed would become fixed, like looking would seal it. I know that sounds irrational, but after watching the 4th photo change overnight, I was not willing to test it. And that is the last story for today. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing.